Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for having me here to share with you on the topic on Climate Action Plan 2030. So what can we do for Hong Kong's opportunity in renewable energy? Dr. Lee have talked about the greenhouse effect of the carbon dioxide or the CO2. So I will focus on the problem on producing the CO2, so the energy sector. So my presentation will fall into three parts. Part one will be the energy development trends in China. So I will introduce how the energy is developing in China. So what the hints for the Hong Kong. So in 2018, the energy consumption reached 4.64 billion tons of standard coal in China. It's a growth of 3.3%, but it supports economic growth of 6.6%. So the energy consumption elastic factor will be 0.5. So we can see that from the green bar and this yellow bar. So the share of the green energy is going up, and the share of the coal fire is going down. So it happens, the green substitution happens here. And when we come to the power market, the power capacity breakdown will be like this in this figure. So we can see the thermal power will be going down year by year. And inside the thermal power, the structure is changed because some of the coal-fired plants is retired, and some new gas turbines and the biomass is going up to substitute them. And in other way, the wind power, the PV power, and the nuclear is going up all this year to take the substitution for the coal-fired power. Okay. The next thing we are concentrating is the power share in the energy consumption. When the energy comes to our life, the power will come for the share for 45% in China, and the terminal power share will be 25%. So the coal is burned for the power for half of its share. And this one is this figure is from the state grid and the southern power grid, the two power grids in China. So they are having an electricity substitution strategy for 2% per year. You know, the increasing power, more power, more electricity in our life than the the coal, the petroleum, and others. And the power consumption share breakdown is like this. We have more hydropower, wind power, and PV power in the structure. So the coal-fired power is going down. And in this year, we have nuclear and gas-fired power going up. So the carbon reduction strategy in China will be like this. The 45% share of the carbon reduction volume will be contributed by the coal consumption cut. So the efficiency increase, and 50% will be contributed by the non-fossil power. I'm sorry, we have many slides, so I have to make it quick. And this figure is showing that in 2018, the wind power in China is growing very fast each year. And we have 184 gigawatts installed in China now. And we have a 9.7% increase in 2018. And this one is for the PV power. It has a even faster increase in 2018. So we have two renewable energies here, wind and PV. So the total capacity of wind farms and PV plants will be more or less the same. But when it goes to the distributed power, the wind power is will be 100 times smaller. Okay. So So the amount will be over 150 times. I will tell you why. Because in the distributed wind, we have a few players here, and when we goes to the distributed PV, we have thousands of players with enthusiasm, just like the marathon. Okay, this slide will tell us about the power price for all these years of the wind power and the solar power. So the wind power from the 2009 to now, it has decreased about 20%, while the PV power is decreased by half. Even that, in 2018, the National Energy Administration launched the new rules for bringing in the competitive bidding rules for the feed-in tariffs. And until now, at least 7 provinces have announced the rules. Some other provinces is planning for zero subsidy tariffs, like Liaoning, Jilin, and Inner Mongolia. This is a map for the Chinese wind power zero subsidy tariff map. So we can see our neighboring Guangdong province is very promising in this area. That's the part 1. We introduced the development in China. The part 2 will be our company, the CR Power, our efforts on the carbon reduction. In China Resource Power, we have 3 major business on the coal-fired power and wind farm and PV power and the comprehensive energy service. We have 38 coal-fired power plants and 83 wind farms and 20 PV plants and 2 hydro plants and 2 gas-fired plants all over China. You can see here. So our ways to lower the carbon reduction emission will be 3 ways. The first one is a higher equipment utilization, and the second way is a higher production efficiency. The last one will be we are going to build more green power facilities. These figures are from our annual report. The nationwide average equipment utilization hour will be 4,300 hours, and the CR Power average reached 4,900. Sorry, it's 600 hours higher. And in coal-fire, we have higher production efficiency. In year 2018, we have kept below 300 grams per kilowatt hour. It's going down by 1.2. Comparing the 309 grams kilowatt hour. And we have two examples here for the renovation on the plant. So we achieved the reduction by around 7 grams. And this one is a newly built power plant in the Chaohuidian in Hebei province. It achieved the global lowest coal consumption rate on the 263. So that's the effort we put on the green power facilities. First, we can see from the investment, the capital investment of green and renewable energy acquire higher share year by year. In 2018, the share is over 55%, while in the plan of 2019, it's expected to exceed 72%. And here we talk about the capacity. The green and renewable energy is accounting for 20%. We are expected to reach approximately 28% by 2020. And that's the breakdown for this renewable energy power. And we have small techniques and the research on this, so we can make the utilization higher, so we can build more build more wind turbines on a certain area. So we get more capacity and more utility hours here. So concerning the utilization hours, green and renewable energy capacity, we have 2,300 hours in the last year. That's 200 hours higher than the average of the country. The way we are doing that is from this way. We have a wind resource and micrositing optimization. So we are getting the result from the third-party design, and we have a way to optimize it, and we get another, say, or 200 hours higher. So would be our advantages. 200 hours more. So the logic is that you get the siting and smart operation technologies, so you get more utility hours and more carbon reductions. So you get more revenues for the company, and the shareholders will invest more on this renewable energy. So this slide is about the energy service of the CR Power. We have 25 provincial power retail companies across China, and we have sell over 70 billion kilowatt hour of electricity last year, and we have bring down the cost of the electricity by 9.7% on discount. And we have cooperated with 57 companies under the CRH, the CR Holdings. And we are cooperating with Foxconn, TCL, Country Garden, and the Higher Group. So the goal for the energy service is the smart energy service will bring more low carbon power with lower cost. And both the cost and carbon is lower. We got the marginal effect of higher utilization hours and lower fuel consumption rate. So we can finally result in the carbon reduction. That's all for our second part. The last part will be the thoughts on the renewable energy for Hong Kong. This one is the Hong Kong's climate action plan in 2030. Its aim is to reducing the carbon intensity by 65 to 7% by 2030. So how can we do that? We got the approaches. I think we have 4 ways to do that. The first way is the thermal power substitution. And the second way is the renewable substitution. And the third way is the social electricity substitution. And the fourth opportunity is the Greater Bay Area opportunities. The first one goes to the thermal power substitution. Yet I know the Hong Kong companies is shifting from the coal fire to gas fire. So the burning efficiency is increased and fuel the logistic energy consumption decrease. So the thermal power can be essential because of its flexible load adjustment capability with higher renewable power penetration. The thermal power is a basic stabilizer of the grid, so it can be removed. The second way is the renewable substitution. The two way of the renewable energy that is so-called mature is now the wind power and the PV. The power production in the power production, the carbon emission will go near 0 for these 2 ways. So for the renewable substitution, I think Hong Kong has its inner strength on this. Means renewables for the onshore wind, the technology development is good and advancing. But Hong Kong, it has a little land for these wind farms. We can say a word that we build 2 wind farms onshore, then Hong Kong will be all occupied by the wind turbines. So it's not feasible. The second way is the offshore wind. The technology is good and advancing too, but it have a medium to rich resource of the the offshore resource. When we goes to the PV, the PV plant is more or less the same with the onshore wind. You have little land for this one. But we have another way for the distributed PV. I think Hong Kong have a medium resource for that. So we have this residential roof and the commercial and industrial roof here. And we got more ways. The offshore wind power planning, we have mostly bigger players because the investment is very large. The distributed PV power planning, mostly is the individual players and contractors. Maybe it's the landlord or the shareholders. So I think the policies for the renewable energy encouragement is very important. So in China, you can see we have the PV power on the fish pond, on the lake, and inside the farm. So they can function together. So I've just heard that the CLP and the Hong Kong Electric is buying renewable electricity at a price between 3 to 5 Hong Kong dollar. Actually it's a very high price. So the offshore planning, we have to do the wind measurements and resources assessments, and we have to do the investigation for the shipping lands and environmental impacts. And another things need to do is the geology and tidal measurements and assessment. And finally, we can get an investment budget estimation. So why we talk about the electricity substitution? Because most of the renewable comes in the form of electricity, like wind power and PV. And the utilization of power on the large-scale grid proved to be the most efficient way in the energy use. From this graph, you can see the efficiency will be 17 times of the coal burning. The distribution of power is fastest and most flexible, also the cheapest. So the power substitution is mostly for the coal and the oil. The other question is how electricity is substituted. In China, we have an experience on these ways. So the transportations, we have e-vehicles. We have Tesla, the EV, HEV, and PHEV. And we have the e-train for the high-speed train, and the e-bus, e-ship. E-ship stands for the shore power system. And we are doing it in the production and manufacture area, and the construction area, and the residential home. So I will hand an example, a lesson from the transportation. So from this graph, you can see that from 2017 to 2018, the electricity in the share in the transportation has just rise from 2.8% to 3.8%. It's up 1% higher each year. And the second graph is showing the sales of electric cars from the 2014 to 2018. But I just really see the electric cars in Hong Kong because I think the power supply is not so strong and the price is going high. Okay. So the last thing we are talking about is the Greater Bay Area, the policies and the framework. I will concentrate on the infrastructure interconnection. So the Greater Bay Area Planning Framework, one of the clauses is to speed up the infrastructure interconnection and to optimize this energy supply structure. So nowadays we have railways connected, we have waterways on the Dongjiang supply line, and we have bridges connecting Shenzhen and Hong Kong and Zhuhai, Macau. So we have internet connections. Yet maybe we need stronger power grid interconnections. Actually, we already have a connection from China to Hong Kong for the transmission of the nuclear power to Hong Kong, as I know. So I think we can speed up the infrastructure interconnection and optimize the power supply structure. We can compare the prices for the electricity in both areas. In Hong Kong area, I think maybe it's right for CLP. The price is 1.18 Hong Kong dollar per kilowatt hour, and for the HK Electric will be 1.2. But in China, we have this price here. The price for the residential will be 0.55 in RMB. So you can see the great gap. and the Chinese is lower its cost by 10% each year. In the meantime, they are raising the, the green electricity, the renewable power, and lower the cost. So the final purpose of the energy and or the power system, I think we have two optimal goals. The one is to realize the carbon reduction goal. The second is to supply the enough electricity at an acceptable price. The fact is that Hong Kong is shifting from the coal fire to gas fire. So the gas fire in Hong Kong is the fastest endpoint of the gas pipeline. So it may have the higher price. And the carbon emission goes down, but the power tariff may be pushing up. So you can see this is the natural gas flow direction in China. Guangdong is also an endpoint. So the gas fire power, the price for it will be higher than the wind power and PV. So let's talk about the Guangdong strength. Guangdong has hydropower transmitted from Yunnan province, Guizhou, Sichuan, and Hubei province through the UHV grid, the ultra high voltage grid. And Guangdong is plans to have 6.5 gigawatts of wind power and 5 gigawatt PV power installed in 2020. So what's the Hong Kong's opportunity? I think it can cooperate to achieve the carbon and price goal. So the carbon reduction can be realized through the renewable electricity purchase and the power tariff cut through the mutual market penetration. I think it's feasible to invest renewables in China and transmit it to Hong Kong by utilizing the natural endowment of the Chinese mainland. I think Hong Kong has a company called the China Power. I think it's China Wind Power. China Wind Power in Hong Kong. They have invest many wind farms in China in early years. So the goal is to get a reasonable price and lower carbon emission and join the other advantage will be joining the backbone grid. So we can see that in 2018 the Chinese mainland has transmitted 13 billion kilowatt hour electricity to Hong Kong, but we can expand it. You can see that the average market price is opening up the power market. For the hydro will be the price will be you can see I think it's the feed-in tariff. The endpoint tariff will be a little higher because we have the transmission cost. For the wind and PV is very promising. So which we can go to our final conclusion. For Hong Kong, I think it has its substantial inner strengths in renewable energy, for example, the wind and PV. And Chinese mainland has achieved the carbon reduction and cost reduction simultaneously. So as for us, the CR Power, we have achieved the lowest carbon consumption rate and achieved the highest utilization hours for the renewable energy. So we have cut the tariff by nearly 10% through the comprehensive energy service. So maybe it can be some contribution to Hong Kong later. So when it comes to the Greater Bay Area opportunity, we can acquire the backbone, grid support, and the power market of penetration for lower costs. And we can transmit the renewable electricity to Hong Kong to serve the carbon reduction goal. And we can cooperate on electricity substitution, improving the power efficiency. And we have a last to get the new investment opportunities in renewable power in China mainland. So that's all I can propose the suggestions for this topic. So I just took it technically. I don't know much about the Hong Kong social issues. So I'm sorry. Maybe some of the the feasibility should be deep should be studied deeper. Okay. Thank you.